In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to part 10 of MyHajj, a step-by-step guide to Hajj and Umrah. My name is Saad from the Wahi Project, and I'm joined by Ismail Davids from Amid Inspirations, and we're honored to continue our journey with you exploring Hajj and Umrah. So far, we've covered an introduction with basic definitions in part 1, a step-by-step overview of Hajj in part 2, a checklist of things to do before you depart in part 3, a detailed look at Ihram in part 4, the journey from home to Makkah in part 5, became acquainted with Makkah in part 6, covered the rituals of Hajj, in particular Tawaf and Sa'i in part 7, discussed Umrah in detail in part 8, and provided some tips to get the most out of your time between Umrah and Hajj in part 9. Now in this part 10, which is the final of this series, we'll discuss Hajj. So finally we are here. The moment you've been waiting for. You've studied hard, traveled wide and far, completed your Umrah with sincerity and hope, enjoyed the Haram in Makkah to the max. Now the time has come. Hajj is upon us. There is an indescribable excitement and electricity in the air, and all of a sudden, you have a blank. What to do next? Don't worry, let's take it step by step. Day number 1 of Hajj is the 8th of Zulhijjah, which is also known as the day of Tarwiyah, or the day of quenching. And it's on this day you will assume Ihram. So if you're in Makkah, then you will assume Ihram from your place of residence, be that your hotel or be that your apartment building. Or if you're outside of Makkah, you'll assume Ihram as you pass by the Makkah. Either way, you will assume Ihram by saying the Niyyah for Hajj. And once you do this, all of the restrictions of Ihram now apply. It is also recommended to start reciting the Talbiyah at this time. Once you assume Ihram, you will make your way to Mina. There are no special rites to be performed on this day in Mina, but the salahs, which are 4 rakat in length, like Zohar, Asr and Isha, are shortened down to 2 rakah. But they are not combined, so you'll read each prayer at its prescribed time. Other than this, use your time wisely. Remember Allah at all times and get ready for the next days. As a reminder, this is the Niyyah for Hajj and should be recited out loud. Lastly, a quick recap of the Talbiyah. Once in the state of Ihram, brothers should recite the Talbiyah loud as often as possible. A sister raises her voice only to the extent of being heard by the person next to her. One should recite the Talbiyah until after cutting of the hair on day 3 of Hajj. Now let's have a quick look at Mina. Mina is situated about 5 kilometers east of Makkah and covers an area of approximately 20 square kilometers. It has more than 100,000 air-conditioned tents to house all the pilgrims. Here's a plan view of Mina's tent area. Pilgrims are accommodated according to nationality. For example, this area is assigned for Southeast Asian pilgrims. This area for pilgrims from Turkey, Europe, America and Australia. This one for Iranian pilgrims. This one for African pilgrims. This one for South Asian pilgrims. This one is Arab country pilgrims. This area is for pilgrims from GCC countries. And this one for internal Saudi pilgrims. These designations may change according to the year and requirements, so make sure to remember your tent and the area you're assigned to. And you can also refer to the maps of Mina which are spread throughout the area. The valley of Mina to the right here is also home to the Jamrah Bridge, where the ritual of stoning of the devil takes place.
Day 1 in Mina. This is a very exciting day because this is the first day of Hajj, when the pilgrims see all their hard work and money come to fruition. The day is normally very, very busy. Buses start coming and arriving in Mina from after Fajr, and throughout the day, buses and people and more people just pour into Mina as the city of tents fill up. The pilgrims are normally very, very tired on this day because they've been up all night before, stressed and worried. So this is a day when you'll find the pilgrims relaxed and resting in the tents in Mina. When it's in the hot days of summer, you'll see the people are very, very hot, so try and stay cool to be ready for the next day. The queues for the toilets can be long, so pace yourself and make sure you go at an appropriate time. Look for the big green signs that shows you the boundaries of Mina and try to stay within those boundaries. There's nothing much to do on this day in relation to Hajj rites, except we pray Dhuhr, 2 units of prayer at its time. We pray Asr at its time, 2 units of prayer. We pray Maghrib at its time. And we pray Isha at its time, 2 units of prayer. The pilgrims relax and prepare for themselves for the next day, which is the most important day of Arafah.
The second day of Hajj is the 9th of Zulhijjah, which is also known as the day of standing at Arafah, and it is the most important day of Hajj. In the morning, after you pray Fajr, make your way from Mina to Arafah after sunrise. Aim to arrive around Zohar time. There is a khutbah before the Salah in Masjid Namrah. For those who are in the masjid or are within hearing distance, listen attentively to the khutbah. After the khutbah, you'll pray both Zohar and Asr at Zohar time, combined and shortened to 2 rak'ah each, with 1 adhan and 2 iqamas. Now, this is the time between Zohar and Maghrib to make sincere dua, supplication, zikr, etc. Continue your dua until sunset. After sunset, you leave Arafah and make your way to Muzdalifah. Remember, you will not perform Maghrib and Isha in Arafah, but wait until you arrive in Muzdalifah. Once in Muzdalifah, pray Maghrib and Isha together, shortening the Isha prayer from 4 rak'ah to 2 rak'ah, with 1 azan and 2 iqamas. After this, you rest in Muzdalifah until Fajr of the next morning. You can also optionally collect your pebbles for stoning here, but remember, they must be made of natural stone. They cannot be cement or tarmac. Also, the size of the pebbles should be approximately the size of a chickpea. Here is a plan view of Arafah. The colors denote the different nationalities and their different camps and tents for this day in Arafah.
Day 2, Yawmul Arafah, the most important day of the Hajj. The Prophet ﷺ was asked about Hajj and he said, the Hajj is Arafah, which means if a person does not get to Arafah, he or she has not completed the Hajj. My brothers and sisters, this is the day, this is the afternoon that you've spent all your time studying. All the money you've spent, all the money you've saved boils down to this afternoon. It is normally a very hot day in Arafah, always a hot day. The years after years I've been there, it is always a very, very hot day. It is almost like Allah's reminding us of the Day of Judgment. So my brothers and sisters, prepare yourself well, hydrate yourself, and get yourself ready for the most beautiful day and the best day of the year. The buses start arriving from after Fajr, and all day, mostly by Dhuhr time, most of the pilgrims, if not all of them, are on the plains of Arafah. If you think about what is it that I would like to achieve from this day, there are over 1.5 billion Muslims in the world today. Think about this. Out of the 2 million people, you are one of the chosen ones of the 2 million that Allah has chosen to be present on this day of Arafah, a very special day. And according to hadith of our beloved Prophet ﷺ, who said, on no other day does Allah set free as many of His servants from the fire as on the day of Arafah. On that day, He is face to face with His servants and is proud before the angels of the pilgrims, and Allah says, what is it they want? Allah is asking you, my brother and sister, what do you want? The Creator, the Sustainer, the Lord of the worlds is offering you an opportunity and asking you, what do you want? So open up your heart, open up your mind, ask Allah, the one and only who can give you. Ask what you want. And the Prophet ﷺ said, when you ask for Jannah, ask for Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. Meaning when you ask for something, ask for the best. Final point, my brothers and sisters. If you look at the first part of this hadith, on no other day does Allah set free as many of His servants from the fire as on the day of Arafah. If that's all you achieve with your supplication, by asking Allah, "Oh Allah, let me be one of the servants that you save from the fire on this day." So some practical aspects about Arafah. Normally the buses and a lot of the pilgrims arrive in the morning, so which means you'll be there around about 8-9 o'clock in the morning. Advice is not to get immersed in any types of ibadah or dhikr at that time, because the day of wuquf actually starts after the Dhuhr and Asr Salah joined. So if you're there early in the morning, my advice is to actually rest and get some energy up, because you will need it in the afternoon. A lot of pilgrims don't understand what Arafah means and what to do on the day. So they get there in the morning and they spend all the morning in dhikr and Quran reading and Salah, and in the afternoon they're very, very tired and they can't fulfill the rights of wuquf in the Arafah. So my brothers and sisters, understand the most important day. Also, in the afternoon, the day is for supplication. So lectures, reading of Quran, making Salah is not an applicable ibadah on this afternoon. So my advice to any group leader or any sheikh of that group is not to give lectures. Even a lecture about Arafah itself in that time is really not appropriate. Also, going to Jabal Rahmah, the mountain of mercy, the Prophet ﷺ clearly stated, "I stand here, but the entire place of Arafah is a place of standing." If you look at the big yellow signs, the boundary, as long as you're within that boundary, you are on Arafah. So don't waste your time to walk to the mountain, to look for the mountain, to search for the mountain, because it is normally very, very hot and you may be very, very far from the mountain and you'll be wasting your time. If you think about it this way, if for argument's sake, say Dhuhr and Asr is prayed at 12 o'clock and Maghrib's at 5 or 6 o'clock, you have basically 5 hours. If you paid $10,000 for your journey, that means each hour is worth $2,000. So if you have lunch for 1 hour, you have a very expensive lunch. That's a $2,000 lunch. If you sleep for 1 hour, that's a $2,000 nap. So my dear brothers and sisters, I would like to advise you to prepare yourself in such a manner that you will be fit as a fiddle during those 5 hours, so you can utilize it to supplicate, supplicate, supplicate. Also, the toilets are very, very busy in Arafah, so choose an appropriate time, a good time to go to the toilets and the bathrooms when it is not as crowded. Plan your day, don't eat too much so you don't have to utilize the toilets as often. Late afternoon, it normally cools down. So if you wish to go outside from your tent and stand outside to supplicate, leave it for after Asr time when it is much cooler. Look for a tree, a place where you can find some shade or under a tree, which makes it much easier for you to protect yourself from the sun. Lastly, when it comes close to Maghrib, the pilgrims start gathering to get on the buses. There's a huge rush and push and shove to get on the buses. The Prophet ﷺ said not to rush and to hasten to get off Arafah. So do take your time, be patient, and make dua for as long as you possibly can. There is no real rush to get to Muzdalifah yet, as all the buses, remember there are 2 million people on the plains of Arafah, all trying to get to Muzdalifah. Another quick point, if you are fortunate enough to get yourself into Masjid Namira, which is the huge masjid built on the plains of Arafah, this is where our beloved Prophet ﷺ made the khutbah on the day of Arafah. However, when he made the khutbah, he actually stood outside the plain of Arafah. And then after the prayer of Dhuhr and Asr, he stepped into the plain of Arafah to supplicate. So my brothers and sisters, There are signs inside the masjid that indicate which part of the masjid is outside Arafah, and it's almost a quarter of the front of the mosque. So if you are fortunate enough to spend the afternoon inside the masjid, please be aware of which side of the mosque you are in, as you may be outside the plains of Arafah. And to fulfill the right of being in Arafah, you must be on the plains of Arafah. So be careful.
Some pitfalls to watch out for the day of Arafah. Fasting the day of Arafah. The sunnah for the pilgrim is not to fast that day. Leaving Arafah before sunset. Staying until after sunset. Staying until after sunset is a wajib act. Standing outside the limits of Arafah. This invalidates the rukn and hence the whole Hajj. Ascending the Mount of Arafah, commonly called Mount of Mercy, or facing it during dua, thinking that it has some merit. As we've mentioned earlier, there's no specific merit in actually ascending the Mount of Arafah. And also, you must be facing the Kaaba whilst making dua, not the Mount of Mercy, not the Mount of Arafah. Wasting time in sleeping, eating, idle talk, or wandering around for no purpose during the wukuf time. The day of Arafah is probably the best day of your life. Do not waste it in anything other than dua and supplication.
As you leave Arafah, a tip for you is to use the bathrooms and the toilets at Arafah, because the journey to Muzdalifah could be quite long. And also if it's not that long and when you get to Muzdalifah, the toilets are normally very busy. So use the toilets at Arafah, make wudu, and be ready for when you arrive at Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah, one of the most beautiful nights you'll ever experience. It is like camping. Even if you don't like camping, you will love Muzdalifah. You will sleep like a baby. You come from your 5-star hotel in Medina, then your 5-star hotel in Mecca, to your 2-star hotel in Azizia and Shisha, then your 1-star camp in Mina. But now, the night is spent 1,000 stars in the sky. After a beautiful day on Arafah, you are now tired and you will land in Muzdalifah on the ground next to a person you may have never known from before. One of the most beautiful things about Muzdalifah is that we all sleep on the ground next to each other, being happy that Allah has given us this opportunity to have completed the day of Arafah. So some practical tips for Muzdalifah. Often people say they'll only spend part of the night, or for those who are not well and sick, they will leave at midnight. What inevitably happens is that the buses don't come, so the people who are meant to be resting are not actually resting, and those who are well and young, they are resting. So my advice is for you to get your whole group and to everybody to stay until Fajr of the next day. So quickly to recap, once we leave Arafah, we go to Muzdalifah. When we get to Muzdalifah, we pray Maghrib 3 rak'ah, Isha 2, and then Witr, 1 adhan and 2 iqamah. We then collect our stones for the next 4 days, or only for the next day, the 7 pebbles if required. And then we spend the night in rest and sleep. Once you find yourself a good spot, put yourself down. If you have a sleeping bag or a mat, get some sleep and try and wake up at about 3-4 o'clock in the morning to go and queue up for the bathrooms, for you to use the bathroom and make wudu for Fajr. Once you wake up late, the bathrooms are very, very busy. Try to keep some spare water, some biscuits, some fruit like bananas and oranges, those that you can peel, so you don't need to wash them, with you, because there are not much food places or much food provided for the night in Muzdalifah. And believe me, you will be hungry because you just spent a long day. But try not to eat too much so you don't have to visit the toilet too often. The next morning, you will get up for Fajr and then pray Fajr and then move on to Mina, which is day 3 of Hajj.
Now some pitfalls to watch out for when in Muzdalifah. Delaying the Maghrib and Isha prayers until after the middle of the night. The sunnah is to delay the Maghrib and pray it with Isha in Muzdalifah if one reaches Muzdalifah before the middle of the night. If you cannot reach Muzdalifah before the middle of the night, read Maghrib and Isha together where you are. Spending the night outside of the limits of Muzdalifah. Staying the night within Muzdalifah is a wajib. Thinking that the pebbles have to be collected from Muzdalifah. Pebbles can be collected from Muzdalifah or Mina. Leaving Muzdalifah before Fajr for fear of the crowds. Permission was given to women and the weak only. Staying in Muzdalifah until after sunrise. The sunnah is to leave close to sunrise, right before. The 10th of Zulhijjah is the third day of Hajj and is known as the day of Nahr, or the day of sacrifice. This is the busiest day of Hajj, with ideally 5 rites to be completed on this day. These rites may be performed in a different order, but the order we'll cover follow the sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. In the morning, when you wake up, pray Fajr and make dua. Depart Muzdalifah for Mina shortly before sunrise. Once you arrive in Mina, make your way to Jamra Aqaba, which is the big Jamra or pillar, the one closest to the Kaaba. You will only stone the big Jamra on this day. You stone by saying Allahu Akbar for each pebble, and you must ensure that the pebble, after it hits the pillar, falls within the basin surrounding the pillar. Stone the pillar 7 times, using 1 pebble at a time. And after this, you will stop making the talbiyah and start reciting the takbir. The second of the rites to be performed on this day is the sacrifice. There is a sacrifice due on each and every person performing Hajj, unless performing Hajj Ifrad. You can perform the sacrifice yourself or deputize it to someone else, for example by purchasing the coupons made available by the Saudi government. The third of the rites to be performed on this day is to shave or trim the hair. Men should trim or shave the hair equally, and to shave for them is more virtuous. Females should trim their hair just as they did for Umrah, by cutting only 1 inch from only one place only. The fourth of the rites to be performed on this day is the tawaf, which is known as the tawaf of Ifada. And the fifth rite is sa'i for Hajj. So, you go to Makkah and proceed to the Kaaba, where you will perform tawaf by circumambulating around the Kaaba 7 times, and then praying 2 rak'ah at Maqam Ibrahim or anywhere else in the masjid. Then proceed and complete 7 laps between Safa and Marwa of sa'i. On completion of this, you are now free of all ihram restrictions. You will now return to Mina to spend the night and also the next 2 to 3 days. As a reminder, this is the takbir you will start to recite after you stop talbiyah on day 3.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Walillahil hamd.
Day 3, some practical reminders of day 3. Day 3, the Yawmul Eid. There is no Eid for the pilgrims. Day 3 is referred to in the Quran as Yawmul Hajjil Akbar, the biggest day of Hajj. And the reason for that is because there are 5 major rites that you need to perform on this day. First, we will go, from a practical sense, you will go from Arafah to Mina back to your camp by bus or walking depending on where you are located. You will normally have breakfast first and rest for a short while. Then you will take your stones, and depending again where you're located in Mina, you will walk to the Jamarat. If you are located in European tent, for example, where the Americans, the Turkish, the British, the Australians live or stay for those days, it's almost a 4-kilometer walk from the camp to the Jamarat. So be prepared for a long walk. It goes through a tunnel, so it is not very hot. Take 7 stones with you because you'll be throwing the Jamarat, the furthest of the 3. Once you've thrown the Jamrah, now there will be a task to find and queue up for the barbers for the men, where you will be shaving your head. Once you've shaved your head, it is now the sacrifice to be made. Normally the sacrifice is done by your group or your group leaders, and it is organized in a separate place because the slaughterhouse is quite far away and they don't allow many of the pilgrims to go there. So ordinarily you won't see the sacrifice being done. It will be arranged for you by your group leaders. Once the sacrifice is done, you will now head to Makkah if you have the energy and the strength to do so. If you are not well or you don't have the energy, you don't have to do the tawaf and sa'i on this particular day. However, if you choose to do so, you can catch a bus or catch a taxi or walk to Makkah. The walk from Mina, from the Jamarat to the Haram itself is another 4 kilometers. It will take you about approximately 2 hours to walk there. This is one of the busiest days in the Haram to perform tawaf and sa'i. So consider that before you decide to walk on this day. Remember, you don't have to do the tawaf and sa'i on this day. You can do it later and delay it. However, for the sisters who has their menstruation starting imminently, like on that day or the following day, it is encouraged or highly recommended that they go to Makkah as soon as possible to perform tawaf al-Ifada, which is a pillar of Hajj which they must perform, and they cannot omit that. Once you perform and complete the tawaf and the sa'i in Makkah, now it is very, very difficult to find your way back to Mina. There are many taxis and buses, but the traffic is horrendous. If you have the strength, it is actually easier to walk all the way back from Makkah, back to Mina, via the Jamarat to your camp. Hence why I recommend that if you don't have the strength, don't go on this day, because coming back is an arduous task.
The remaining days of Hajj, days 4, 5 and 6, or the 11th, 12th and 13th of Dhul Hijjah, are known as the days of Tashriq, or drying of the meat, and are all spent in Mina. The only thing to do on these days is to stone all 3 Jamrah every single day that you're there. The 13th of Dhul Hijjah is an optional day. The preferred timing for stoning is after Zawal, i.e. after midday. For stoning, you go towards the small Jamrah and you stone it 7 times, after which it is sunnah to make dua. You then proceed to the middle Jamrah and again stone it 7 times, and then again make dua after stoning the middle Jamrah. You then proceed to the large Jamrah and again stone it 7 times. But once complete this time, there is no dua to be made. The rest of these days are spent in Mina, reading Quran, performing zikr, etc.
Some practical aspects for day 4, 5 and 6. Day 4, you will be throwing all 3 Jamarat on this day. So you need 21 pebbles to go to the Jamarat. It is normally after Zawal, but if it's a very, very hot day, you can delay to later in the day. Some of the latest rules in the Saudi regulations is that they've allocated certain groups and certain camps to go at a specific time. So you may have to wait until your time is allocated to you, and your group leader will inform you and take you to the Jamarat. You will normally walk as a group to the Jamarat, and once again, depending on where you are located, be ready, take some water and an umbrella and keep yourself cool and shaded. When you get to the Jamarat, take your 21 stones, count 7 of the stones and put them in your left hand, and put the other stones back into your pocket. Walk towards the Jamarat, and you'll come towards the Jamarat on the front end, but walk past it as if you're going right past it. Then go to the extreme end and walk inside, and you'll find that there's very few people there. You throw 1 pebble at a time, saying Allahu Akbar, and once your left hand is empty, you have thrown your 7 stones. The reason you only keep 7 stones in your hand is this way you don't have to worry about keeping count. You move out of the way towards facing Qibla and make your supplication. You then walk towards the middle Jamarat Once again, putting 7 stones in your left hand, and do the same exactly as you did at the small Jamrah. Once you finish your supplication, take out 7 more stones and walk towards the big Jamrah, where you will throw it the same way, but there is no supplication after that. You will now return back to Mina, where you'll spend the night in Mina. Take the time and look for the good times to go to the bathrooms. One of the best times to go to the bathrooms and the toilets is when people are having dinner or lunch, because they are busy eating and there are not many people at the bathrooms, because the toilets can be very, very busy. Day 5, if you're only staying for the 5 days, for the 2 days in Mina, then you have to prepare to leave Mina. So pack up your bags, get ready and put it on the bus, because you will still be walking to the Jamrah. There are no public transport to the Jamrah. You have to walk there. Don't forget your stones. So you'll be walking to the Jamrah as you did on the day before, and you will meet your bus and the luggage at your camp in Azizia or back in Makkah. If you're staying till the following day, day 6, once you've thrown the Jamrah, you will head back to Mina, where you will spend the night. People get confused about getting out of Mina before Maghrib. The rule is very, very simple. If you decided to stay on day 5 to stay in Mina, and after Maghrib you are still there, you cannot change your mind and then leave. You have to decide before Maghrib to leave. If, however, you decided to leave before Maghrib and you are still stuck in the traffic or the people in Mina after Maghrib, you can still leave because you already made your intention to leave. So don't panic about getting out of Mina as long as you've made your intention to leave before Maghrib. If you stay the extra day, day 6, you do the same as on day 5. But this time you'll have to collect your bags, and normally there are no buses to take you back to your hotel. So you'll have to carry your small bag, take your stones and head towards the Jamarat, where you will do exactly the same as you did the day before. Once you've thrown the last Jamarat, all the stoning and the days of Tashriq are now completed. You will head back towards Makkah or Azizia or wherever your accommodation is. One final tip on Mina. Mina, what separates the men from the boys. This is where a lot of pilgrims buckle. You find all the excuses and all the reasons why they shouldn't spend the nights in Mina. My dear brothers and sisters, I'd like to remind you, the money you've spent is for you to go on Hajj, not to find excuses to violate and find excuses not to be in Mina when that is where you're meant to be during the days of Tashriq. The reward is to be in Mina. For argument's sake, if it's a Friday and you are in Mina, there is more reward to pray 2 units of prayer for Dhuhr in Mina than there is to pray Jumu'ah in the Haram. So my brothers and sisters, try not to neglect this particular rites of Hajj, as many, many pilgrims do. You need to be in Mina as much of the day and all of the night if at all possible. Many groups stay in Azizia or Makkah and they say they'll only spend part of the night in Mina. So what they do is they walk over to Mina, stand on the boundary for 1 hour and then walk back to Makkah. You are only cheating yourself. Don't cheat yourself. You have spent a great deal of money, so do it the right way.
Let's now cover some pitfalls of the Rami or the stoning. Performing the Rami during the days of Tashriq before Zawal, before midday. It is reported the Prophet, peace be upon him, did the Rami in all 3 days after Zawal. It is permissible to delay it until after Asr or even to the night if it's too crowded. Throwing the pebbles all at once. They have to be thrown one by one. Putting the pebbles into the circle area without casting them. The pebbles have to be pelted towards the actual pillar and then fall into the circle or the basin area. Casting more than 7 pebbles. In matters of ibadah, worship, prescribed numbers are to be strictly adhered and observed. Pushing and shoving. Stay calm as much as possible and do not hurt anyone while performing the Rami, the stoning. Throwing objects other than small pebbles, like shoes, sticks, umbrellas, and large rocks. Do not pelt with anything other than small pebbles. Making takwil or deputizing in Rami without a valid reason, like illness. A wajib is missed in doing so, and therefore an animal sacrifice is due.
One last thing to remind you about in Mina, there's a masjid there called Masjid Khayf. The Prophet ﷺ said that I prayed here and 70 prophets before me prayed here. So if you have the opportunity to go inside the masjid and pray there, do so. The masjid is located near the Jamarat.
Now, as we mentioned, day 6 or the 13th of Zulhijjah is an optional day. So if you'd like to leave Mina on the 12th, then you must do so before sunset, after you've done your stoning. If you decide to stay for the 13th, then you can leave Mina on the 13th after Zawal. The final rite of Hajj is Tawaf al-Wida, which is made before you leave Makkah. So once you leave Mina on the 12th or the 13th of Zulhijjah and return to Makkah, you need to make Tawaf al-Wida before you leave the city of Makkah. This again is performed by circumambulating around the Kaaba 7 times and 2 rak'ah prayer at the Maqam Ibrahim.
The last rite of Hajj, Tawaf al-Wada, which is the farewell Tawaf, this generates a lot of confusion. Point 1, sisters who have their menstruation can omit this Tawaf without paying any fidya. So they don't have to do it or wait to do it. They can leave without performing it. The Prophet ﷺ said, let the last thing you do before leaving Makkah is Tawaf. So the idea, the principle is that the best memory you have of Makkah is to perform Tawaf. Meaning that after you've performed Tawaf al-Wida, you should not go shopping, eating in restaurants and the like. However, people get confused. If you have performed Tawaf al-Wida and there's Salat al-Maghrib or Salat al-Isha or any Salah after that, you must still go back into the Haram and perform your Salah. Hence, if you've performed Tawaf al-Wada and there's a big delay for undue reason, then it's probably better to go back and perform Tawaf al-Wada again. So in simple terms, Tawaf should be the last thing you do before you leave Makkah. Not the best shopping or the best meal in the best restaurant.
Your Hajj is now complete. May Allah the Almighty accept it. Hajj Mabrur.
This is Abu Munir, Hajj Mabrur, and may Allah accept your Hajj and all your du'as.
This brings us to the end of part 10. Thanks for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to hearing from you. If you found benefit in this series, please share it with your family and friends. Remember to visit our websites, which may have additional resources accompanying this presentation. Please remember us in your prayers. All praise is due to Allah, our Creator and Sustainer, Lord of the worlds. We finish this series the same way we started it, with the name of Allah.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك